You're not going to believe this. Well, maybe you are. I just canceled my VA physical that was scheduled for today. Surprised? I don't think many of you are surprised. If you've been following me, you know my opinion of the healthcare system and its effectiveness in improving the health of the average American. Something that is getting worse and worse year after year, no matter how much money we throw at this healthcare system. Many of us have learned why. We know the truth. We know the origins of all the advice that have led to the fact that following the government's dietary guidelines over the past 30 years have poisoned 80% of the human race. We're fat, we're sick, and we're getting worse. And no matter how much we talk about the problems in the healthcare system, what are we supposed to do? I look back at the last 10 years of my life at the outcomes from any interactions I had with the healthcare system, and they've always been, or most often, have been more harmful to me than helpful. The only time the healthcare system has ever come through for me was when I broke something, or in a case of my kidney stones, I had an acute attack and had to go to the hospital. Not a single time have I ever walked into a hospital or a doctor's office and actually gotten help for anything. The only time I got help was when I arrived by ambulance, when I had my brain surgery, when I had my stroke. And if I'm honest with myself, I can blame most of the problems that I had on trying to follow the deadly advice that most of us are trying to follow. The healthy diet advice. We're getting sicker and fatter. Anybody who's observant can figure out that the problem is not getting solved. But the healthcare system, if you look into the business of it and the regulation of it and what they're teaching medical professionals, makes you want to stay away. Now, I'm not advocating that you do what I did, but I've made the decision. And it wasn't an easy one, that my priority is to avoid this so-called healthcare system at all costs. More important than avoiding them is trying to live my life in a manner where I don't need them. I'm at a point at my age and my health where I have no immediate need of any care or advice from any healthcare professional anywhere. Not many people could say that. I'll be 79 years old in May. I take no prescriptions. I have no conditions. I have no pain. The most important thing for me is to keep doing what I'm doing and do everything I can not to hurt myself or expose myself to all of the pathogens out there. And if you don't believe me, the best way that you can get sick is to go sit in an emergency room waiting room for 4, 5, 10, 15 hours in that sea of humanity that's sick and unhealthy and, quite frankly, annoying to be around. I think avoidance is a great tactic. Fortunately for me, it's easier for me to avoid the general public and putting myself in situations where I can have an accident. I don't go anywhere. I live alone. I'm perfectly happy. I happen to be one of those personality types that does better by myself. I'm not lonely. I relish it. Gives me time to think, to contemplate, to figure things out. So I decided, it's not an easy decision. I decided this morning that annual physicals and annual blood work are not in my future anymore. I've always done that. And when I go into the doctor or the VA or anywhere, they usually give me advice that would be harmful to me. They want me to go on a statin. They don't know how to interpret certain blood tests to determine kidney health. Their diet advice is completely wrong. It still is, and it's not going to change. I've studied everything that they've studied except anatomy and what drug is good for the other thing. And that's what doctors spend most of their time learning. They learn anatomy. It's not important for me to understand or know anatomy. I'm not going to be doing any surgery or dissecting the human body. I know nothing about that. Very little. Which bone is connected to which other bone? Which muscle does what? It's not important. But I do know cellular biology, evolutionary biology, human physiology, and all of the metabolic systems that do account for whether you can be healthy or not. I practice it in my daily life. I've been a carnivore for 3.5 years and low carb most of my life before that. When I tried to follow their advice, I got sick. When I followed what I learned, I got healthy. I got thin and suffered from listening to and trying to comply with all of their advice. The medical system these days, ask any doctor, Doc, how much of your time is spent actually seeing patients and how much of your time is spent doing paperwork, complying with government regulations, insurance company regulations, this regulation and that regulation? Think about your own life. What happened the last time you needed to see a doctor? How long did you have to wait? How hard was it to get an appointment? Did your insurance company pay for it, approve it? How much more cumbersome is it becoming to deal with and get medical help? I know in my case, it's absurd. It's absurd. I've already accepted the fact that if I have a heart attack, something serious where my heart stops, I'm just dead. It's the end for me. There's no way an ambulance could get here fast enough to resuscitate me. When I had my stroke, it was a half an hour from the time that I called 911 until I actually got help. I had a stroke right at exactly the same place that they operated on me. Now, you can't prove that that was the cause of my stroke. The medical community looked at me and said, oh, you've got high cholesterol, and that's what caused your stroke. I know that's not true. I know now that those of us who are physically fit, metabolically healthy, have no diseases, non-diabetic, no matter how old we are healthier with higher LDLs than we are with lower LDLs. But that goes against the narrative, and the corruption. And I reached a point. I've been battling this and fighting this and ranting about this for years now. Quite frankly, I'm tired. of fighting a David and Goliath type battle. Nothing that I can do, nothing that any carnivore or keto YouTuber can do is going to do anything more than guide those people who are realists and smart enough to understand truth when it hits them in the face and have common sense. That leaves out the majority of the American public. If you don't think the American public has lost their minds, watch the news. Watch the news. Go to the doctor's office. Go to the hospital. Look around. I made this decision to drop out. Now, if I have a symptom, something in particular that I think needs medical attention, I, of course, will seek out a doctor, go to the emergency room, full well knowing what I'm up against and the amount of judgment and condemnation because I don't buy into their methodology and I don't subscribe to their programs of managing my health on a day-to-day basis. I got more faith in evolution and human physiology than that. Our physiology doesn't need management. It needs one thing. And there's one simple answer: proper nutrition. What that is highly debated. Everybody thinks they're right. Plant-based versus animal-based. Which are you? Do you feel that you have to have high fiber? Do you have to monitor the different strains of bacteria in your gut? Is that something that you need to be concerned with? Or do you buy into the reality, like I do, that if you just provide your body with proper nutrition and avoid the things that are highly addictive, you don't need to be managed. You don't need to manage it. You've got all the brain power and programming you need for it to manage itself, and it'll do a fabulous job. As long as you don't get in car accidents, spend your days hanging out in pneumonia wards, exercise enough caution to stay away from the places that are dangerous to your health, I think you'll be better off. I've decided to do that for myself. A lot of people think I'm foolish. We'll talk more about this in the future. But for anybody that was interested about what happened when I went to see my doctor today, the short answer is, I didn't. I didn't. Thanks for listening. I'm ready to take the criticism and comments, so throw them at me. But after you do that, take the rest of the day off. And the best actionable advice that I can give anybody that asks boils down to two words: eat meat.